Good evening. Welcome to Chocoholics. So I guess we're going to start out because we have chocolates to taste, and I want to kind of shift us from chocoholics into connoisseurs. Okay, so we're going to actually enjoy these chocolates from the point of view of really appreciating them. You know, so what do you think would be the difference between a chocolate lover and a chocolate connoisseur?
Quantity.
Abuse. Abuse. Okay, I'm getting that.
Noticing what you're tasting instead of la la la.
Shoving it in there. Yeah. So what I did was, I'm just going to take a couple minutes, really, 5-10 minutes, just to kind of go over what are some of the health benefits, because we have a love-hate relationship with chocolate, right? A lot of people love chocolate, but they keep thinking, oh, I'm not supposed to, it has too many calories, it's bad for me. It's like, so let's kind of lay out, well, what does all that mean? Because that's pretty true. Some chocolates, they aren't that good for you. Some amounts of chocolate, not that good for you. But there are some things that have health benefit, and so it's not like, oh, I can't ever. Okay? And maybe for some people who are true chocoholics, maybe they can't ever. Right? If it was like one bite and I'm gone for months, I'm in a binge for months, maybe you really are a chocoholic. And it's something that would be better to avoid, right? But for those of us who have some degree of ability for moderation, there are some healthful benefits. So I was just going to start out with those, and then I'm going to talk about, the simple little things that we know how to do it in a way that helps us. So there's several things about chocolate that we know that are helpful. One is the things that we have found out in the last few years is that there's anti-inflammatory effects. Is anti-inflammatory effects a good thing in the body?
Indeed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anybody know what an inflammatory response in the body could feel like?
Sore joints.
Yeah, could be pain, could be sore joints.
Skin.
It could be itchy skin, could be hot. There's a heat to it. It could even be it could be inflammation in the brain, which shows up like a brain fog, right? So there's all sorts of tissues that can get inflamed. There are flavonoids, are the chemical inside of chocolate that help us have that anti-inflammatory effect of chocolate. But the interesting thing is, and there's so many of them, which is why there's that benefit. It's not necessarily just candy. There's 5 times more flavonoids in chocolate than there is in an apple.
Woohoo.
Right? So that sounds, wow, I could have 5 times more than an apple. Maybe not. But there's also, in those flavonoids, because what a flavonoid really is an antioxidant, and you've heard of that term. Right? An antioxidant is something that's good for the body because it quenches free radicals, which are things like wildfire and damaged cells in the body. So things that quench the wildfire, they're going to be good within reason, within limits, okay? But these flavonoids, because they're antioxidants, they also have an anti-aging effect. Oh, who can not like that, right? we like that. But some of these anti-aging effects actually affect us at the skin level, and they protect us from some UV damage. So a little bit of chocolate even benefits my protection against sun. Well, that doesn't sound so bad. And then there's chemical. This is the chemical most people like, theobromine. That's the kick most people get from chocolate. Like, anybody ever have like a PMS kind of thing where they wanted a little chocolate around that? This is the chemical that helps sync that up, and what that does is it does a few things actually. But a interesting effect that theobromine has is it works on the vagus nerve, which can get triggered in too much activity, can just like be chronic coughing. You ever had anybody like just chronic coughing, not because they were sick, but just because they cough a lot? It's an activity of that vagus nerve. This chemical inside of chocolate helps depress that, and so some people have a decreased cough effect.
Can you go over again what the vagus nerve is at?
Yeah, the vagus nerve is a really important nerve. It's one of what they call the cranial nerves. It's an actual nerve that exits the brain And it doesn't go through the spinal cord, it's outside the spinal cord, so it's straight from the brain, not part of the spinal cord. Goes down, leaves the brain, through the brainstem, right along with the spinal cord, but it goes to the heart, the lungs, the digestive tract, and your immune system. So the vagus nerve is always tying everything together. It's tying everything that you take into your stomach, sending information up. It's tying in everything that's going on with the heart. It's sending it back up to the brain, back and forth. And the immune system governing it all. So it's always talking back and forth to the brain. If it gets too stimulated, you can have like a spillover effect and have it, because it's very close to the ninth cranial nerve, where things like coughing and stuff are, then you can get this spillover effect and you can get symptoms. So any nerve that works in balance and well, things are happy. Any nerve that gets either too high or too low, you might start seeing symptoms, but you definitely would have imbalance. So for some reason, this helps bring a little balance back into that vagus area. So although this research is showing us this, it's very possible later on we'll find that there's going to be connections to anything the vagus nerve goes to, heart, lungs, digestion, and immune system. So down the road, someone's going to say, chocolate's good for your immune system. Well, they kind of already have, but that's how that's going to tie together a lot more than people realize. And then, this is a really interesting, cool thing, is that chocolate, good high quality chocolate, helps increase blood flow, which helps increase circulation, which, because it has an anti-clotting effect, keeping that circulation going, it's going to have an increased ability, because that blood flow is also going to the retina. It has an increased, research shows, helps increase vision. So it has a positive effect to the retina also. While they're increasing that blood flow to the brain, is also allowing you to be a little bit more smart, and have a better performance, a little bit more alert, awake, a little more energy. Not just from the oh, I'm hyper kind of energy, but from I got blood flow, I'm working better. Within limits, you can't go crazy and have this actually continue to do it. So in 2005, the Italians did a study.
Of course they did.
Of course they would. And what they found was that chocolate helped increase insulin sensitivity, which is a really good thing when you're talking about risks of diabetes, because you need good insulin sensitivity and function, or you're at high risk of diabetes. So they found that you could reduce the risk of diabetes with some chocolate. They actually saw that by doing this study, they found that insulin resistance, which is when the cells don't listen to the insulin, they don't take the blood sugar in, they had a 1/2 decrease in that, which means that's like a 50% improvement in the way the cells listen to, right? And so that's a pretty powerful phenomena. And you think, well, if chocolate can do that, then I could eat all the chocolate in the world and I would never have diabetes. That's not what this means. They also found that chocolate helped people lessen cravings for sweet, salty, and fatty foods. Because they had less cravings, they ate less calories, and because good high quality chocolate has a lot of fiber in it, like some high quality 80% chocolates have 8 grams of fiber per serving. That 8 grams helped people feel full and satisfied longer, so they had less want to eat as many calories during the day. So there's a fine line between how much chocolate helps and the calories that you're taking in from chocolate versus the calories that you might not be taking in from other kinds of food. But again, you can't take chocolate all day because that feels good. You still need that high quality of nutrition. So far, so good, right? Mm-hmm. Chocolate's pretty much doing positive things. And the Swedes did a study in 2011, and they found that a certain amount of chocolate helped decrease heart attacks and stroke by 39%. And so specifically what they found was about the equivalent of a 1.75 ounces a week, 45 grams a week, was able to help people decrease heart attack risk and stroke risk by 39%. And that comes out to approximately 240 calories of chocolate within the week, which is a small piece of chocolate a day or a bigger piece every few days. Right? So 1 or 2 servings a week actually saw a reduction in heart failure, the risk of heart failure. So we're not talking huge amounts of chocolate here. It sounds like we are, but we're not. They also saw a decrease in blood pressure from moderate chocolate use and LDLs, decrease in cholesterol.
Do you know what kind of chocolate they were?
I don't know what chocolate they studied this, but I believe it was, I have to double check. It was 70% or higher. I can't remember, but it was at least 70%. I can't remember the brand or. Then, this is where it gets a little bit more interesting in amounts, and this is where we kind of have to start figuring this out for ourselves. Because there is positive effects within stress and handling stress. We're seeing that studies have showed that you could actually get a cortisol reduction after 2 weeks of eating 1.5 ounces a day, right? That's 240 calories of chocolate a day. Now, they didn't say what they did after this 2 weeks. And where would those effects, if you continue to do it after 2 weeks, where would you nullify those effects? Because as the weight gain from eating 240 calories worth of chocolate a day would cancel out any probably benefit of cortisol, even maybe driving it forward in the future. So I think there's going to be this kind of thing with that kind of amount. That doesn't mean that some people aren't eating this. This would be like a Snickers bar every day, right? 240 calories, about that ballpark. A Snickers bar every day. Problem with Snickers bar is it's low quality chocolate. You're not going to get this benefit at all. You're just going to get the calories and the taste. But if you reduce the cortisol and you're eating chocolate, you had less stress. You felt good. And the reason is it helps boost endorphins and serotonin. So who doesn't like endorphins? Right? Yeah. And I think, yeah, so those were the major, and there's a lot more things that go with chocolate. One of my favorite was that they had, and I can't think of where they did the study right now, but they found that mothers who ate some chocolate, some high quality chocolate, their babies, pregnant mothers, their babies were actually happier babies. They smiled more than the kids from mothers who did not eat the chocolate. So that baby was even happier. So clearly, it has drug effects, happy drug effects. So if we have all this, we're going like, okay, well, we know from that heart study that said 39% decrease in heart attack and stroke occurred for people who ate more than 9 grams in a week, but the highest benefit was at 45 grams a week. So we're looking at more than 9 grams is almost nothing in a week. It's like 35 calories in a week to 45 calories being the dose that they saw that kind of an outcome. So we know that a little bit is a little bit. It didn't have as much medicinal value as that other zone. We have a lot here for a short-term cortisol stress relief. And I really think that what this study is showing us is that, yes, it gives us it should be used medicinally short-term. Because consider that medicinal, right? This is not our goal. Whoa, 240 calories of chocolate a day. Now, having said all that, you get to do whatever you're going to do because people do whatever they do, right? If you're already eating that, that's what you do. But here's the thing that has to be, if you want the health benefits of chocolate, you've got to be looking at chocolate that's 70% cocoa and above, right? That's where the medicinal effects are showing up. That's where the give and take from the high sugar content to the value is going to be. And which is what we're going to kind of sample today, is that range of the chocolates with the medicinal effect. And ideally organic, and ideally chocolates that aren't GMO'd with anything and aren't produced through alkalizing agents. Alkalizing agents, they change the pH and they reduce these chemicals that are health benefits. So if we kind of focus on when we get like a bar of chocolate and we're like reading through it, you have to read the label. So you have to read the label. That's the one of the outcomes here is like you've got to know what this is. Some of these, believe it or not, is chocolate. Some of them have wheat products in it, right? And some of them have GMO products, and some of them have nuts. And so if you have an allergy to nuts, you want to know what that, so read the whatever that is. Read the label. Read the label.
How do you monitor for the alkalizing?
You just read the label and then you try to buy a different brand. It was
Will
actually
say alkalized
yes,
on
yes,
okay.
it will. Yeah, and if you can find some without the soy lecithin, even better. But that's kind of tricky sometimes. I went to 3 different stores and I shopped through them, and at some stores there was like only 1 bar. So I ended up over at Whole Foods because they have a bigger selection, and I found many to pick from. I found more that didn't fit my criteria than I found that did fit my criteria. So that is the things pretty much, if you consider that, that's what we're going to be looking for in the how. Okay? Yes?
So I have a question about if it says on the label that it's organic, certified, does that necessarily mean it's also GMO free?
No, it'll pretty much have to say GMO free.
Has to say.
Anybody who's GMO free will claim it, right? Some if they don't have anything like that in their if they're not using soy lecithin or lecithin to cut things with, then they might not put it because it's not even an issue. It's the things that they cut it with that is GMO'd. The soy lecithin, the alkalizing agents, not the chocolate or the cocoa. So if you're just like pure cocoa butter, that's it, maybe a little sugar, then they might not say GMO free.
Because those things haven't been modified?
Right.
Right, they're pure.
They're pure. They're not GMO'd. It's not there yet. It's a tree.
I also found out too that a lot of times they'll say an organic chocolate bar, but only some of the ingredients are organic. I guess in order to say that, they have to have a certain percentage that are, and the rest don't have to be.
Yeah, so if you read the label, you'll get a feel, and those are the 3 things you look for.
Another question.
Okay.
What about just going straight for the cacao nibs? Like
You could do that. That's 100%. Yeah, if you like those, absolutely. Nothing wrong with those. You don't like them. But you could do it. No, absolutely. Anything that's in the raw family, that's most likely not been processed with any kind of alkalizing agent, so that wouldn't be any, and that's most likely almost always organic. Cool? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to dig into becoming connoisseurs, right? So let me get this out of our way for a second. And we're going to take a little table out because we're going to all enjoy this. And for you guys at home, sorry, you don't get to taste. But
How are we going to rate them?
we will rate them. But so we're going to go ahead and turn off the video. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you later.